Welcome to this deep dive. We've got quite a stack of sources in front of us today,
Yeah, quite a mix.
all kind of grappling with this big topic, building long-term wealth, really
Mhm.
taking control of your financial future.
Absolutely. And we've pulled from, well, all sorts of places, articles, notes, different insights. They cover everything from the basics, like budgeting and saving,
hmm
all the way through to investing strategies, boosting your income, even big things like buying a house.
And also looking at wealth beyond just, dollars and cents, which I found interesting.
Right. So what we're trying to do here is really unpack all these different takes,
Yeah, pull out the key ideas, the things that can actually help you move from maybe feeling a bit, well, stuck or overwhelmed.
which is easy to feel.
Totally. Towards feeling more informed, more empowered about your money.
And as we were digging through all this, one thing kept popping up again and again, a central theme, really.
Which was,
The power of patience and intentional action. It often kind of boils down to this idea of delayed gratification.
okay, delayed gratification. Sounds simple, maybe, but these sources seem to argue it's, well, fundamental.
Yeah, foundational even.
Yeah.
They really push back against the idea that wealth is about, some overnight success or finding a magic trick.
Right. It's more about the small things.
Consistent, smart choices made deliberately, day after day, year after year. That's what these sources suggest makes the real difference.
So let's dig into what those choices actually look like.
Okay, let's do it. So delayed gratification first. The sources are calling it almost a superpower.
Yeah, it's framed that way. It's about consciously resisting that pull, the impulse buy, the immediate comfort.
The easy thing right now.
Exactly. Because you're focused on something bigger down the road, cultivating that future reward.
Okay, so it's that discipline piece,
Right.
which, let's be honest, is often the hardest part, right?
Hey.
Seeing something shiny now versus something maybe better later. Why is saying not yet so crucial? How do the sources explain that?
Well, they connect it straight to opportunity cost. It's pretty direct.
Ah, right, opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend on, that immediate thing, that's a dollar that isn't working for your future. It's not going into savings or investments or paying off that high interest debt.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources kind of show how the buildup, the cumulative effect of delaying those little things, that's what builds momentum. Whereas always spending now just keeps you
Keeps you running in place.
pretty much, yeah, treading water.
That makes sense. It's like compounding, but for decisions, not just money. So how does this idea, this delayed gratification, link up with the practical stuff like budgeting?
Oh, it's baked right in,
Yeah.
especially in strategies designed for consistency.
Yeah.
Like take the 50-30-20 rule that pops up in the sources.
Yes. The one they said might not make you cry. I like the sound of that. A budget that isn't painful. What's the framework there?
It's pretty straightforward, presented as a clear system. Basically, 50% of your after-tax income goes to your needs.
Yeah.
Housing, utilities, essential food, the must-haves.
Okay. Half for needs.
Then, about 30% is allocated to wants. That's the fun stuff, eating out, hobbies, movies, whatever. Discretionary spending.
Right.
And then, crucially, that last 20%, that's strictly for savings and paying down debt.
So that 20% is like the delayed gratification slice of the pie right there in your monthly plan.
Exactly. You're actively choosing every month to set aside a decent chunk of your income. You're delaying spending it now on current wants,
hmm
specifically to build security or, fuel growth for later.
And the sources say this works because it's simple.
Yeah, it simplifies things. Is this a need or a want? Does this want fit in the 30%? It sets clear boundaries.
Reduces stress, maybe.
That too,
Mhm.
because you're addressing the future up front. It puts you in control,
Mhm.
makes that choice to delay more concrete, less abstract.
Okay, so that's managing the money coming in. Now, what about money you earn? Like from a side hustle or maybe a small business that's starting to grow? The sources seem pretty strong on reinvesting profits.
Oh, absolutely. They
Mhm.
really emphasize the accelerating power of putting that money back in.
Instead of just taking it out as like bonus cash.
Right. Instead of just immediately spending it on personal stuff,
Yeah.
you channel it back into whatever generated it or into other investments entirely.
hmm
The core idea, again, is delaying that immediate enjoyment of the profit.
For potentially much bigger growth later on.
Exactly. Exponential growth, potentially.
Yeah, that feels a bit counterintuitive, I think, for some people. You see extra money, you think fun money.
Sure, that's the temptation.
But the sources are painting this picture where reinvesting isn't just saving, it's like planting seeds back in the same field
Yeah.
to get a bigger harvest later.
That's a great way to put it. It's definitely strategic, a patient play.
And speaking of building for the future, what about skills? The sources mentioned developing high-income skills.
Yes, another key area where they connect effort now to reward later. They point to acquiring skills that are in demand, often specialized.
Like what, specifically?
Well, they don't list everything, but think tech skills, specialized trades, advanced sales, or marketing, things that command higher rates. And the sources argue this is a powerful way to directly boost your earning potential. It can open doors, maybe give you returns that even beat a traditional degree sometimes.
So you're investing your time, maybe some money too now.
Right, building a capability.
That pays off later. Higher salary, more freelance gigs, maybe even starting your own thing.
It's classic delayed gratification, isn't it? The effort now isn't always immediately rewarded at its full potential value.
Precisely. But the long-term financial payoff, according to these sources, can be really significant. You're investing in yourself, your earning capacity.
Your most valuable asset, arguably.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears just a bit, the sources also get into big decisions like buying a home, and they really flag those hidden costs.
Yes. The cost you'd regret ignoring. That's a big one, because most people just focus on the mortgage payment, right?
Yeah, that's the main number everyone looks at. But the sources warn about everything else. Things like ongoing maintenance.
Which always happens. Always. And repairs. Property taxes, which can definitely go up. Homeowners insurance, you need that. And sometimes HOA fees.
Homeowner association fees, right?
Yeah. Those can add up.
And the key is understanding these before you buy.
Exactly. Calculate them, budget for them before you commit. It gives you a much more realistic picture of the true cost month after month, year after year.
Helps avoid getting squeezed later on.
Right. It's more planning, more patience,
Yeah.
delaying that gratification of owning the home until you really know you can handle the full financial picture.
So, making an informed choice now prevents headaches later. Classic delayed gratification payoff. Okay, connecting back to investing more broadly, they mentioned a specific strategy, Joel Greenblatt's magic formula.
Yes, from his book, The Little Book That Still Beats the Market, it's presented as this very systematic, unemotional way to pick stocks.
The one they said was simple enough for a hamster. That caught my eye, makes it sound very accessible. What's the gist of it?
The core idea is basically to buy good companies when they're cheap, systematically.
Okay, good companies, cheap price.
Yeah, the formula uses metrics to find companies that are profitable, like is it a good business? And combine that with valuation metrics, how cheap is the stock relative to its earnings?
So it's disciplined.
Very. The sources highlight that its power comes from that discipline and focusing on, sound fundamentals, not trying to time the market or chase the latest hot stock.
Okay, but how does that tie into delayed gratification? I mean, isn't all investing about patience?
It is, but this emphasizes it. It's fundamentally a long-term approach. The sources stress that you use the formula, you invest consistently based on it, and then, the crucial part, you wait.
You just wait?
You let compounding work. You let the quality of the businesses shine through over time. You let the market eventually recognize their value. It's explicitly not about quick flips or reacting to the daily noise.
Ah, okay. So it requires delaying that urge for quick speculative wins.
Exactly. For potentially much bigger, more solid returns built through patience,
Yeah.
consistency over years.
So the system provides the framework, but your own discipline to stick with it.
That's
To get you.
Now, the sources also had a couple of interesting, almost wildcard points. One was this idea that some cities will actually pay you to move there.
Yeah, I saw that. That seemed kind of wild.
It is mentioned as an example, right?
Yeah.
Incentives offered by certain places, often smaller towns or rural areas trying to attract people, boost the local economy.
So the point wasn't necessarily move here, but more. Think strategically.
I think so. Consider your environment. If your current location isn't helping your financial goals, maybe look around. Are there places actively trying to help you maximize your resources?
Interesting angle. It fits the theme of being intentional, strategic. And then there was that other piece, the last kind of wild card about wealth that isn't just money, turning curiosity into craft.
Yes, that was a lovely piece. It really broadens the definition.
It resonated, yeah. It used the example of a kid like 12 years old learning to crochet from YouTube just because they were curious.
Right. And the sources frame that kind of activity. Learning a skill, developing it as a form of real wealth.
So challenging the idea that wealth is only your bank balance.
Exactly. It suggests that true abundance, real richness, can also be found in having the freedom to just explore things that interest you. And the patience it takes to get good at something just for the love of it. And the simple joy of making something yourself. They called it invisible richness.
Invisible richness. I like that. The ability to follow that curiosity, practice, turn it into a real skill. Maybe make those crocheted snakes they mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not immediately about money, but like the sources hinted, that kind of richness skill, resilience, creativity, it can actually build capability and maybe even open financial doors later in unexpected ways.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that building a rich life, a truly abundant life, involves more than just the numbers.
So it raises that question, doesn't it? How does that kind of wealth, that invisible richness,
Right.
how does it connect with financial well-being?
Yeah. How do they support each other? It suggests a more holistic view. Maybe financial health gives you the freedom to explore, and that richness of skill can support your security or open new paths.
It really reinforces that core idea, though. Patience, dedicated effort, applied to anything you care about, whether it's your budget, your investments, or, mastering crochet, that's where real value gets created in all sorts of
Well
forms.
said.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, looking back at all these sources on building wealth, the core message feels really, really clear and consistent.
Yeah, it's not about luck, usually.
Yeah.
Not about shortcuts.
No, it's built deliberately, patiently, through those consistent, intentional actions over time.
Absolutely. And that central idea, delayed gratification, it just runs through everything.
Right. Making smarter choices by resisting those immediate temptations, maybe using a structure like the 50-30-20 budget.
Yeah, or letting time and patience do the heavy lifting, like reinvesting profits for compounding growth, or sticking to a long-term investing plan like Greenblatt's formula.
And taking action now for future gain, like developing those high-income skills to boost your earning power down the line.
And planning ahead,
Uh-huh.
avoiding those future problems, like really understanding all the hidden costs of buying a home
Yeah.
before you sign on the dotted line.
When you're actually doing these things day to day, focusing on these patient steps, it can feel slow sometimes.
It definitely can.
But the sources consistently emphasize you're not just like ticking boxes, you're actively building something significant, an empire, as one source put it, step by step.
Yeah, that's the picture they paint. So keep your eyes on that long-term prize. Remember the power of keeping that wallet closed sometimes for the impulse buys. And keep that mindset focused on growth, on patience, on being intentional.
Okay, so here's a final thought pulled from the source material for you to chew on after this deep dive. Spend a little time thinking about this idea that real wealth, maybe it isn't always just measured in dollars and cents. Maybe it's also found in, the freedom you create for yourself to explore things that genuinely excite you, the deep patience it takes to get really good at a craft you care about, or just the sheer joy of creating something that's uniquely yours.
But invisible richness.
Exactly, that ability to turn simple interest into a real skill, passion into creation. Think about how that broader definition of wealth, how does it intersect with your own financial goals and your overall sense of, well-being? Something to consider.